Hello, everybody, and welcome to Riftbound Ramblings. I'm your host, Barrett, and welcome back, everybody, from the 4th of July weekend for everybody in the United States. I left a little early on that Friday, so I did not get my reveal video up going over those cards, and I used Monday to kind of recoup, get back to work, etc. So today, that means we have 2 days worth of cards to go over, so that's very exciting. This is everything from Friday, July 4th, and also Monday, July 7th. So without further ado, let's dive in. First off, we've got Find Your Center. This is given to Riftbound Official on the 4th of July. For 3 energy, you get a spell for the Calm Domain, played at action timing that says if an opponent scores within 3 points of the victory score, this costs 2 less, going down to 1 energy, and it says as the effect, draw 1 and channel 1 rune exhausted. Yeah, I think this card's fantastic. I think the fact that this isn't on body is really nice because it now means calm domain, not just legends, but just decks in general, have an extra way to channel more runes, and it does draw you a card, so this replaces itself. This is pretty good mileage. I think this is going to be even better for any body domain decks that want to be ramping even faster. And then also, if you find these later and your opponent is closer to winning the game, because that just naturally is going to happen, this costs 1 to draw a card and give you a channel rune exhausted, which allows you to pay power costs. So regardless, this is going to be a challenger level card for me. I think it's even playable at the 3 energy. I don't think you just have to wait to play these until you're at 1. So I think that's really good. Moving on, we've got Portal Rescue, given to us by Riftbound as well. For 3 energy and 1 power, you have a spell with action timing for the Mind Domain. And it says banish a friendly unit, then play it to base, ignoring its cost. So this is like, for everyone that plays other card games, a flicker type effect. It allows you to take a unit and immediately get rid of it, which then means effects don't affect it, and then it comes back. So that's why this being action timing is really nice for showdowns. Allows you to save a unit, or it's really good with effects like after you've done something with the unit. Now, I could have also put any sort of effects that work with like on play, but I like just also using this with a card that comes in ready or has accelerate. You play the unit, you swing with it, you take a domain, and then you can portal rescue the guy, bring it back to your base, and because they enter ready, they're not going to come in exhausted, and you can go to a different battlefield. That's where I see this card having success at a bare minimum. And the more and more better effects that they give us of when cards enter, Portal Rescue just becomes even better. And so for that, I mean, I'm going to give it a challenger rating no matter what, because that's the bare minimum for this card. I think it's going to be good regardless in the future. Moving on, we've got a battlefield given to us called the Grand Plaza. This was given by Riftbound Official as well. And it says, when you hold here, if you have 7+ units here, you win the game. Alternate win conditions have always been a little scary for some games. They can be very hard to balance, I would say. And I think that's kind of gonna be the case here. I think basically any decks that run Calm/Mind are going to be able to take advantage of something like this. Now, I have Ari here as an example because she's both of those domains. That this identity of playing like a longer-ish game, being able to generate units without having to take over battlefields, things like token generations that you get from like Victor support, which that's on like Mind and Order Domain, or just like calm effects that allow you to defend battlefields so well. I think the Grand Plaza becomes a very scary win condition for those decks, depending on how fast the game can be. Now, these decks could get blown out by a bunch of aggro decks that are kind of doing the same idea, and then this battlefield becomes a liability, because then if you can't remove enough things or you can't take the battlefield back, I just see this being like even early on in the game, if you take this battlefield for an early like victory point, if your opponent never attempts to contest it with meaningful effect, you can just keep putting units on that same battlefield, and then it gets harder for your opponent to take over, and eventually you can maybe hold it with 7. So I think this is going to be a challenger level battlefield. The fact that we have an alt win condition in the first set is really exciting to some people, but it could also be really scary, and it could be the reason why these decks are going to be good. Moving on, we've got the Chaos Domain Twisted Fate Champion unit. This was given to us, not actually by Play Riftbound. I'm so sorry. This was given to us by Grappler. For 4 energy, you have a 4 might champion unit, Twisted Fate Bilgewater. For the Chaos Domain, this says when I attack, reveal the top rune of your rune deck, then recycle it. Do one of the following based on the domain that the rune that you revealed was. If it's a Fury domain, you deal 2 to an enemy unit here, and 1 to all other units here. That's pretty good. If it's a Mind Domain rune, you draw a card. That's pretty good. And if it's an Order Domain, you get to stun an enemy unit. And that effect doesn't say here. That one, like the red one does, or Fury. It says stun an enemy unit. That's really good. So Twisted Fate's going to be really good. There it is. Grappler Twitch is the one that gave it to us. Now, I'm going to give this a challenge rating because I think that at its bare minimum, a champion unit that is good on its might cost for its energy, doesn't cost the power, and has these multiple effects that are repeatable every time it attacks. Although, asterisks, we are going to have 2 legends that have Fury and Chaos, being Annie and Jinx. And I think both of those decks, like Twisted Fate, Chaos and Mind is only going to be on Teemo on release. This is going to be pretty good in Teemo because of the draw. And then we don't have a Chaos and Order Domain legend, which makes me think that it's just going to be Twisted Fate when he comes out eventually as a legend. But the fact that this card comes out and it has a non-bow effect with itself is a little weird. And obviously any deck that you put this in, because it's a Chaos deck, you're probably also playing Chaos runes in your rune deck. You don't have to, but you can. He's going to be good just from the first 2 effects that we're going to get on release, and then has the potential to go up. So that's why I give him the challenger rating. I think this guy's really cool. But that's going to be all the cards that we got from July 4th. So moving on to the first card of July 7th on Monday, Fight or Flight is given us by official Riftbound. And for 2 energy, you get a spell that can be used as hidden or action timing for the Chaos Domain. And it says move a unit from a battlefield to its base. Yeah, I think this is obviously going to be very good for Teemo decks. It's another hidden card for counting for the Chaos Teemo champion unit, so keep that in mind. And yeah, I think this card's just really, really good, even if you don't pay it for its hidden or play it for its hidden ability. It's really good because it costs a power instead of the 2 energy, which can be nice for you to hide the card in the face down zone. Or it just says, oh, my opponent has 1 giant guy defending a battlefield. As an action spell for 2 energy, move that unit back to its owner's base. Yeah, this card's going to be challenger level. I think this is going to help people win games. This is really good for Teemo defending battlefields because of the hidden timing. It's going to be very, very good. This actually is a good enough reason to play Chaos Domain, period. This card is actually incredible. Moving on, we've got Falling Star, given us by Riftbound Official. It is a 2 energy, 2 power spell for the Fury Domain. No action timing, no reaction timing, but it says do this twice. Deal 3 to a unit. You can choose different units or you can use the same one. Wow, so 2 power is a lot. But this is 6 damage for 2 energy. So when you don't look at the power cost, this is very good. So I really like it in characters like Kaisa that are going to really help you pay for the power cost on this, because as soon as you use one of your seals or Kaisa or both to pay for this Falling Star's power cost and not have to actually lose any of your runes, this becomes a challenger level card. And this is probably the best spell for removal on the board pieces that the Kaisa deck is going to have access to. The kicker is the double power cost, and it always is going to be the double power cost. Now, also the Kaisa champion unit that we know about is you can grab this pretty early on because it only costs 2, which means the 2 victory points is achievable to get for that Kaisa. So I like Falling Star a lot for this deck overall. Moving on, we've got another cool spell called Progress Day, given to us by Riftbound Official again. For 6 energy and 1 power, you get a spell for the Mind Domain, and it just simply says to draw 4 cards. No action timing, no reaction timing. You can only play this on your turn. And this is pretty standard for what Progress Day did back in Legends of Runeterra. So I'm not really surprised by this card at all, and how they carried over that like costing of the card to be the same with Progress Day. And overall, I think the lower you can make this cost, so like in Kaisa decks, you can ignore the power cost. That makes this card feel pretty good. More eager apprentices on the board allow this card to be not 6 energy, but that could be 5, 4, and 3. That makes this card a lot better. So I'm gonna give it a diamond rating. I don't know how much play this is gonna see, but like for the control style slower decks, things like Victor or like Ari, for example, even Kaisa, like these spell slinger decks that like are gonna need powerful ways to refill your hand. Progress Day does do that, but it only works if you're also maintaining the board control. Because if you have to spend a majority of your energy on your turn to play Progress Day to reload your hand, and then not actually be able to deal with the board, you don't want to take a turn off in this game very much like that. So I'm only going to give it the diamond rating. I see this card being really good in the future, but maybe not right away until the kind of meta adapts. But slower decks do like it. Moving on, we've got Albus Pharaohs. This was given to us by the Riftbound Community Discord, which if you haven't joined, I very much recommend that you do. I post on the content there, so if you want to find my videos on the Discord server, you can also find them there. But there's great discussions. There's always people playing Riftbound in there, which makes me really excited because the game's not even out. But anyway, Albus says for 4 energy and 3 might, you get a Piltover unit for the order domain that says when you play me, spend any number of buffs. For each buff spent, channel 1 rune exhausted. So this is even more ramping abilities for order, because there's already a little bit. And it gives you a huge buff payout. Like, you can spend a ton of buffs and get this huge payout, which makes me really, really like this in Set. Now, Set himself is already like a buff spender because he can bring your units back. But this says if you're in a winning position without having to spend a power, Albus on play has a meaningful effect that allows you to eat up some buffs that are repeatable, things from like Cythria, and then you are immediately paid off for them to help channel more runes, to then help pay for the extensive power costs in things like Set. So it's making me really, really start to like the character and the legend. And so I give it a challenger rating because I think this card can only get better the more and more ways there are to receive buffs on your units and keep them there and regenerate even more, because obviously you'll spend the buffs with Albus, you'll want to put more buffs on them so that Set can bring them back. But I do like this card quite a bit. And then finally, we have the Mind Domain Dr. Mundo Champion unit. This was given to us by Plink Uncharted, one of the senior game designers for Riftbound. And for 8 energy, 2 power, you get a 6 might Dr. Mundo Zon Champion unit for the Mind Domain that says my might is increased by the number of cards in your trash. But at the start of your beginning phase, you have to recycle 3 from your trash. So first of all, I like this card. Again, another incredibly cool card for control decks. I think, for example, I put Victor here because Victor isn't necessarily like recycling a lot in his deck or his discard pile, but you are going to have to spend cards or play cards to play the game. And eventually, later on in the game, Mundo comes down and is never, almost never going to be for 6 might. He's actually probably going to be for 10, 15, 20 might when you eventually want to play this guy. And that's pretty strong when trying to take over domains at the end of the game, or sorry, take over battlefields at the end of the game. And even his downside of at the start of your beginning phase, recycle 3 from your trash. One, it means you'll never like deck out, obviously. And 2, even if you can't recycle anything, he doesn't like die. He just goes back to 6 might and he stays at 6 might, which is not terrible. So like I kind of like him. I am not giving him a challenger rating. I'm still really iffy on these high energy costed cards, and he's worth 2 power. But first of all, the theme on this card, the this not hurt a bit. Like when you're so logged into the game that Mundo just comes as this massive unit. But the problem is there is removal in this game that doesn't matter how large of a might unit you have, it can just get rid of it. So, like, I'm kind of hesitant on these large units like this, especially when you spend the majority of your energy playing them. So, I'm kind of iffy about it. But this guy's really cool, and I like it when the cards are cool. But that's going to be it for today on all the cards. Thanks so much for watching this one. Give a like to the video if you like what you see. Comment down below. Tell me what you're excited for in the upcoming cards that we got here, because we are getting down to the wire on these Riftbound cards, and the set is going to be coming out in China this month. So that's awesome. Subscribe to the channel if you want to always make sure that you can check out when I release a video. But that's going to be it for this one. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.